You're already creating your reality many times unconsciously and with negative beliefs that don't serve you. There are all these branching choices that are representative of multiple outcomes, multiple reality paths. It's about us figuring out how do we access these by the state of being that we choose to be in, because the state of being determines which path you actually ultimately choose. You lay out your life path before you are born from spirit. There are certain challenges you set up for yourself, but how you get there and how you deal with them is up to your free will. People think that there's such a thing as a lack of trust, a lack of confidence. There's no such thing as a lack of trust. Someone says, I lack confidence, is confident about that. So it's what are you putting your trust in? What are you confident about? Because that's what you're going to experience.
What about death?
Death is just waking up as your true self and remembering we are a soul. We just expand back to our soul self. That's our natural state. Non-physical reality is our home. This is the afterlife.
Welcome back to the Healing and Human Potential podcast, where today we're diving into the metaphysics of reality and exploring ideas that might completely change the way that you live life. We're going to talk about abundance, synchronicity, and what the future holds with AI, as well as open contact with extraterrestrial life. We're going to explore the possibility of multiple realities, shifting timelines, and how frequency shapes our experiences. Joining us is Darryl Anka, who for over 40 years has been channeling messages from a multidimensional being known as Bashar, who really shares fascinating practical insights for living our highest potential. This is going to blow your mind. So just to give people context real quick before we dive in, can you talk to us about who is Bashar and what your relationship is with him?
Yes, well, Bashar, the entity, presents himself as an extraterrestrial being. He does have a physical presence, although they're highly evolved and very close to the vibration of spirit, according to the way he explains himself in their civilization. Now, no one has to believe that Bashar is real because I have no way of proving it. I have my own proof because I saw the spaceship that started me on this road and all that stuff. But the idea really is they remain in the background. What's important is the information that's coming through. This could be another aspect of my own consciousness. Again, I have no way of proving it, but it ultimately doesn't matter because, again, it's about the information itself proving that it's real, that it works, that you apply it in your life and you actually get an effect, a result. And that's the most important thing. And that's why they stay in the background for now, because they want to see how much of it we're willing to absorb, whether we're willing to sort of understand the way they see things in the universe. And do we become more compatible to them? Or do we want to be left alone? Do we want to go down our own road and not have interaction with them? They're completely open to allowing us to make that decision because it's our lives and our planet. They open first contact a lot of times this way. Bashar presents himself literally as a first contact specialist in his civilization. So he makes connections with many different civilizations. He initiates contact in a variety of ways, one of which is a telepathic communication that results in what we now today recognize as channeling. So if someone is willing to find themselves being trained to alter their brainwaves to become more capable of locking into his brainwave frequency and acting in a sense as a telephone for him, as a translation device for his thoughts, then that link can be made, an agreement can be made, usually even before the physical life of the person who's made an agreement to do this in life. And he will then make that connection with them at some point in their life, bring through information, help them train to be a better channel, to telepathically connect more easily, so that the information coming through is clearer and clearer. And then he observes how much of this do people accept? How much of it do they reject? How much of it do they need to spend more time understanding? And that for him acts as a barometer for how ready are these people for contact. Now, as I understand it, he and a couple of other psychics have explained that open contact is almost here. It's pretty imminent. It's happening within a couple of years as far as we can tell. Not that it hasn't been going on in the background, behind the scenes, for many years, in different ways, but completely open to the world for the first time for every culture, because there are cultures that have had contact for a long time on the planet. A lot of Western society doesn't necessarily buy into that, but The indigenous cultures have been talking about this for thousands of years. They're connected to the star people. I think for the first time in a couple of years, the whole planet will be aware that these beings do exist, that they've been here for a long, long time, and now they're willing to help us more openly. We've arrived at a point where they see that it's crucial for them to kind of let us know that we have help in moving forward, because they want us to help move forward. They would like us to be able to become another part of what they would consider to be a galactic family. So this is really kind of what Bashar is all about. And the way he approaches that is giving us information that are practical toolkits for how to change your life in positive and constructive ways, and to be of service to humanity in doing so. And so I have learned over the years that the concepts that he delivers are very direct, they're very simple, and they're very effective. They actually work. And that's why I'm saying it's not about who he is or where it's coming from. It's about the fact that on some level, I'm tapping into information that actually does make a difference in terms of how our reality works, how our psychology works, how we can change our beliefs from negative to positive, and how we can live lives that are more joyful, more fulfilling, and more constructive and better service to humanity. One thing we did do at one point, because I come out of the film industry, is we made a documentary called First Contact about my channeling and about who Bashar is. And one of the things we did in there is we actually had my head wired to an EEG machine, because we wanted to demystify the concept of channeling, because it's sort of been in the, woo-woo level of reality for a long time. And the fact is, everyone actually channels from time to time. It's an altered state in the brain that science has labeled as gamma, between 40 and 100 cycles per second. And when anyone is doing what they love to do, when they're following their passion, when they're in the zone, as you say, they're in the gamma state. When you're not paying attention to the passage of time, you look up, you think it's been 15 minutes and it's been 3 hours, you've been in the gamma state. You've been in a channeling state. It's just a flow, a creative flow of association and output that doesn't really pay attention to the passage of time. So we wanted to demonstrate what the channeling state is, how common it is, and also what's happening in the brain during the channeling state. So I wired my head up, and we had a technician monitoring, and they did a baseline control of me just as myself, and then Bashar when he came through when I was channeling him. And the differences in the brain are profound, and actually in some cases supposed to be impossible. So we found several different changes that go on in the brain that don't make sense as far as science is concerned, but nevertheless they happened. Like, for example, there are certain centers of the brain that actively control your ability to express your personality. During the channeling state, all of those shut off. So if my personality centers aren't functioning, who's talking? Right? Things like that. There is something else going on in the brain that's called a set point. And the set point for everyone is, at a certain point in your life when you're young, you develop a rate at which your brain processes information, processes reality as you perceive it. And once you arrive at that set point, whatever that is, it never changes through the course of your adult life, unless you have like a head injury or something like that. So that's not ever supposed to move. But when I channel, the set point goes up in seconds. And it's even weirder because the set point goes up when Bashar's talking, but when he's listening, it goes even higher, which means he is really listening to you on many different levels and really absorbing the information so he can give you the information back that you really need. He can see the reason behind why you're asking the question, even if you don't know that that's why you're asking the question. So he gets right to the heart of the matter. So a lot of incredible things happen in the brain in the channeling state. You process information faster, you synthesize and make associations more quickly. You can just see from a broader perspective from that state, and it allows for this creative flow. So sort of all that in a nutshell is what's happened with the channeling and who Bashar is.
Yeah. And this has been a relationship that's been developed for how long?
I have been channeling Bashar for over 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And so I know I'm going to ask you some questions
Sure.
from his perspective, but I'm curious what Bashar would say about multiple realities.
One reality is the result of multiple realities. It's like you have different, let's say, choice paths. Now, you do lay out your life path in general before you are born from spirit. And there are certain challenges you set up for yourself. But how you get there and how you deal with them is up to your free will. And one way to deal with them is by making this choice as opposed to that choice. There are all these branching choices that are representative of multiple outcomes, multiple reality paths. It's about us figuring out how do we access these by the state of being that we choose to be in, because the state of being determines which path you actually ultimately choose. Because if you are creating a vibrational state that might be mostly negative or lower, you will only be capable of choosing the paths that are commensurate with that state, because that's all you can see from that state. But if you go into a higher vibration, if you uplift yourself, raise your frequency, more options are available to you. You can actually perceive more options or get inspired by more opportunities, because that's on the level of the frequency you're at. You can't, as he says, see what you're not the vibration of. That to him is just physics. You can't perceive what you're not the frequency of. You can only perceive what you are the frequency of. A negative energy can only look at negative options. A positive energy can only see positive options, or is aware of the negative ones, but recognizes that it doesn't have to choose them. It is taking advantage of multiple realities, multiple paths to construct what we consider to be our life path, our timeline. But all of these multiple parallel realities all exist simultaneously. It just depends on how we navigate through them with our vibrational state that determines how we either speed up or slow down, how many people we affect, how many expressions of our passion we are able to act on in life, how we're of service to others, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So in some ways, it's like your energetic frequency can help you jump timelines. Would you say that that's
In
accurate?
a sense, I mean, that's a way of expressing it. I don't know that that's something that people have to absolutely take literally to understand that it's really just all about being in the proper state that's more in alignment with who you are. And that's the rudder that navigates you through whatever array of possibilities or probabilities there are to choose from. And whether those are actually different realities or whether they're simply options in this one that we sometimes don't see, that are invisible to us and might as well be another reality because we don't see them until we can see them. It doesn't really matter whether it's a literal parallel reality or whether it's just a path we didn't see until we were the right state of being to perceive it. It still functions the same way. The state of being navigates you and gives you the opportunity to perceive choices that you otherwise may not have had.
Which really feels like the world of pleasure and following your joy. And there's importance in that, not only for you, but vibrationally for the world.
It's crucial, because the thing of it is, see, that's the thing I like about what Bashar does, is you hear all of these kinds of aphorisms in New Age thought, follow your bliss, live your dreams. But why is that important? He explains why that's important. The idea of acting on your passion, he says, do you understand what passion is? You have a soul. You are a soul. And when you decide to have a physical experience, that doesn't mean you stop being the soul. In that sense, a part of you is still in spirit. It never leaves. And in fact, all of you is in spirit. The idea of us as physical beings is happening within the soul. The soul never leaves the spirit reality and goes to a place called physical reality. Physical reality is an experience the soul creates within itself. It's a perspective, it's a focus. And that focus is what we call physical density, physical reality. The soul is densifying a part of itself, focusing a part of itself to create this little crystalline nugget called a physical mind. And that's the physical being experiencing a physical reality. But that's happening within the soul. The idea fundamentally is that we can understand that as a soul, it's not that we have a soul, we are a soul. And as a soul, we can choose whatever is most in alignment with our true vibration as a soul. So when, as a physical being, we receive a message from our soul, the soul sends that message in energy because it's not physical. So it's an energetic message. It's an energetic guidance. Our physical form translates that energetic guidance into the sensation we call passion, excitement, creativity, love. So when you are willing to act on an opportunity that has more passion in it than any other, that's you recognizing that the soul is saying, this is the next step. This is who you are. This is your vibration. And if you act on it, if you're willing to listen to the guidance and you are willing to act on it, then you're answering the soul, because the language of physical reality isn't thoughts or words, it's actions. So when you act on what you are passionate about, the soul knows you heard it, and it will send you more opportunities to act on your passion. If you don't act on it, it won't send you more opportunities until you act on what it's already sent you, because that would be pointless.
Imagine having a fulfilling career doing what you love, working from anywhere in the world, setting your own hours while making good money and a big impact. If that lights you up, then I'm super excited to share with you today's sponsor, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. This is my robust, accredited year-long certification program for new or seasoned coaches, therapists, leaders, and those just looking to up-level their life in a profound way. We have an amazing community of students from all around the world who have really started their journey to expand with us both personally and professionally. And this experience is designed to give you the 3 things that you need to thrive. So first, you have all of the tools and support you need to move past what's been holding you back so that you can completely change the trajectory of your life. And then you learn how to masterfully and confidently facilitate transformation with your clients or your team, regardless of your niche. If you want to do health, business, relationship, or you just have no idea yet, we hold your hand through that. And then lastly, you'll receive my 6-figure and beyond signature roadmap that's customizable to meet you wherever you are. So whether you want to do high ticket sales, online marketing, or you just want to hit 6 figures without ever needing to go on social media, we've got you covered. And this truly is the most rewarding work in the world. We have new students now who have a wait list of dream clients in under a year. We also have seasoned students who are doing $80,000 months. And this is really about creating lasting transformation from the inside out so that you can share your gifts and serve the world in all the ways that you're called to. And I've seen firsthand the power of what happens when you have the community to collaborate with, but you also have the right tools and resources to really thrive. And so whether you want to do your own personal development, you're wanting to become a coach, or you're just looking for a cutting edge approach to really grow your business, the Institute for Coaching Mastery is for you. You are held every single step of the way. And so if you want to get behind the scenes access to the Institute with 3 proven transformational tools for free to help you create the business and life you love, all you have to do is go to alyssanobriga.com/tools, or you can find us at alyssanobriga.com/apply now to see all the details and apply today. There are so many questions I have from all of that. Also, trust then becomes a part of the equation.
Well, trust is always there. See, this is also one of the things I really appreciate about Bashar. He takes a lot of old definitions and he turns them upside down. People think that there's such a thing as a lack of trust. They think there's such a thing as a lack of confidence. There's no such thing. Someone says, I lack confidence, is confident about that, right?
Yeah.
I'm confident that I lack confidence. So it's not about having to learn to be confident. It's not about having to learn to trust. It's what are you putting your trust in? What are you confident about? Because that's what you're going to experience. So we don't have to learn to trust. It's automatic. Anyone that feels out of control is controlling that. So you're never out of control. You never lack trust. You never lack confidence. You have to learn to put your control, trust, and confidence in what you prefer and not what you don't. And the only reason we put those things into ideas that we don't prefer is because we've been taught to believe we have to. And this is the big challenge for humanity. Can you look at your beliefs? Can you sort out the ones that are not in alignment with who you truly are as a soul? And can you let go of those and actually start only buying into the beliefs that are in alignment with your soul vibration, with your true self? That's the big challenge that we have chosen to face in transforming and evolving ourselves as a human species. Can we actually, facing all of these challenges in a world of deep polarity and possible negativity and fear, can we transform darkness into light? Can we transform negative into positive? Can we transform limitation into freedom? That's what we're learning. Earth is a school, a graduating class school, a tough school, but one that is a school for souls to master their ability to transform themselves, to grow, to expand, and by doing so, to help the universe and creation expand, because that's how creation expands. The structure of existence is what it is. It never changes. How creation expands is because we change our relationship to it, our perspective of it, and our experience of it. And that is how it expands forever and ever and ever, because that never ends. There's always something new you can learn. There's always a new perspective you can experience. And that's what expands creation and allows what Bashar calls all that is, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, to also experience its own expansion through all of us and everything that exists.
I love that, because then there's no bypassing. It's being genuine and honest about your real experience. You're not trying to get a higher state, because I think sometimes in the spiritual community, people will bypass some of the lower frequencies so that they get high.
Absolutely, because it's about taking responsibility for what you experience. Again, it doesn't mean that other people aren't doing things too. You have your responsibility as to how do you respond to that. Because as Bashar has basically said many times, it's not about so much what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your life. Do you react negatively to it and experience negativity in your life because of that reaction, because you define something in a negative way? Or do you respond positively to it and experience a positive response, a positive experience? Now, that doesn't mean that you start calling negative things positive things. You still recognize that something can be generated through a negative act, a negative belief, negative behavior. But you don't have to be negatively affected by it if you stay in a positive state, or at the very least, neutrally detached, and recognize that this is in your life for a reason. And if you stay in a positive state, no matter what that is, no matter how it was originated, you will get a positive lesson out of it. You will get a positive effect that will help you move on, that will help you grow, and maybe even help the other person get out of their negative state, because you're willing to be the living example of rising above something so that they can look at you and go, how did you do that? And then you can say, well, I did it this way. I stayed in this positive state. I understand that you're going through a process. I'm not invalidating your process. I am learning from it, but I understand that the only reason you would do that is because you have in you somewhere a fear about yourself, a doubt about yourself, a lack of self-worth, a lack of love, a lack of deservability in your ideas. Not that you actually are unworthy, not that you actually don't deserve, not that you actually aren't loved, but you don't know you are. And I know that, and I see that, and that's why I'm not affected, because it's not my issue, it's yours. And I'm willing to share with you ideas that may help you out of that, but I also respect your life path. And if you're not willing to choose what I have to share with you, what you do with what I share with you is none of my business.
Yeah, that's clean. It's like the power is in me, not the situation.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be an embodiment to use everything for my learning and growth. And if they're inspired to learn, great.
And that's exactly what Bashar does. He says, I give you all this information because this is what I do. I have no agenda as to whether you should believe it or take it. It's up to you. I know this information can work and make your life better because I know it works. But you have to decide that for yourselves.
That sounds
I don't
mature.
live your life.
Yeah.
You live your life. But I'm here to help.
It really flips everything on its head in the material world of I have X and Y versus like, how do I choose to use whatever opportunities that life gives me as a way to grow and heal and evolve from.
Exactly. And he's very good at explaining all the psychological mechanisms for why we hold on to negative beliefs and, why we buy into certain things and all that. He makes it very clear as a step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is why you're doing what you're doing. This is how you change what you're doing. Use the toolkit I'm giving you. You will see a difference. If you understand how things work, then you literally treat the information I'm giving you like an instruction manual. In the same way that if you received a machine that you wanted to put together and their instruction manual came with it, you would look at the instruction manual, you would go, okay, I'm not going to add any instructions. I'm not going to take any instructions away. I'm going to follow the instructions. Otherwise, the machine may not work properly. So he's saying you're already creating your reality. This is how you're creating it, but you're creating it many times unconsciously and with negative beliefs that don't serve you. So here's how you use the same mechanism in a positive way. This is what the mechanism is. This is how it works. And when you understand that, you will never be fooled again by thinking you have to buy into something that doesn't work for you.
Will you give an example around abundance? Because I know this is a big topic for people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, there are probably dozens of ways that people hold themselves back. People can have a fear of success, and they may not want to be abundant because they're afraid that if they do get abundant, they will lose it. And that's more painful to them than never having it. And that's a belief. See, that's how that kind of thing works. But also we have a certain definition of abundance in our society that isn't always a clean definition. One of the things he talks about is that, look, there are many forms of abundance. Abundance in his definition is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it, period. Now, can that come through money? Sure. Money is one of the ways our planet represents an exchange or represents the idea of abundance. But there are other forms of abundance. Being given a gift is a form of abundance because you somehow synchronistically manifested somebody giving you something you needed. That's a form of abundance. Having something to trade is a form of abundance because there needs to be an exchange. Synchronicity is a form of abundance. Imagination is a form of abundance because you might imagine a path you never imagined before that would make it easier for you to attain what you need without having what you thought you need in order to do it. So you have to really tap into your creativity and imagination. And even as important as that, communication is a form of abundance. Because when people withdraw within themselves and they don't communicate what's going on with them, no one can help them. They would be surprised how many people, if they're just let in to what it is someone is going through, how many people would offer to help you. So you have to really trust that there is that level of humanity, whereas like, I'm going through this, even as simple as saying, I've got to have this money because if I don't have the rent, my landlord's going to kick me out of my apartment next month. Talk to your landlord. Tell him the situation or her the situation. Let them know what's going on. Engage them in the process so they don't feel like you're ignoring them or leaving them out or trying to trick them or hide from them. When you engage with somebody, you might be very surprised how they will respond. They might say, you know what, I understand what you're going through. I'll give you another 2 weeks to come up with it, or I'll forgive it this month, or I know someone who can do this for you and you can earn the money that way, or whatever. But people never even explore those things because they're too afraid of finding out that something bad is going to happen if they reveal what they're going through and don't ask for help. They think they have to do everything themselves. But the thing that's ironic is asking for help is still doing it yourself because you asked for help. So they have to include the idea of other people who could help them into the idea of I'm doing this myself with help.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's broadening those definitions of what abundance is that can allow more forms of abundance to come in to allow you the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. There's a story that Bashar tells, and it's a story that I've told because it happened to a friend of mine, and it's a perfect illustration of this. Did you ever hear him tell the story of the photographer?
No, but I literally was going to ask you if there was a story, so you're already getting the message.
A very good friend of mine is this fantastic photographer. She takes gorgeous pictures, and mostly pictures of things like sacred sites and stuff like that. But at one time in her life, that was her dream, to go around the world, take pictures of all the sacred sites, the pyramids, Stonehenge, Angkor Wat, whatever. She didn't have the money to do that. Now, she understood the principles that Bashar was talking about, so she didn't let herself think this could never happen, which would have prevented her from having an inspiration. But the inspiration, most people would have said, that's crazy. That'll never happen. You can't do that way. But again, she didn't pay attention to that. Her inspiration was, okay, I know this sounds nuts, but I'm going to go to the airline and I'm going to ask them to fly me around the world for free so I can take all these beautiful pictures. She knew there had to be some form of exchange. It's not about just being handed things on a silver platter and screw everyone else. So she went to the airlines and she said, look, here's my portfolio. You can see I'm an accomplished photographer. If you fly me around the world to these sacred sites, I will take those photos. You can use them in your brochures to attract tourists to your airlines because you're not going to find pictures better than these. Not only did they agree, they paid her, put her up in the best hotels, fed her like a queen, and she lived her dream because she was willing to stay in a state where it might be possible that there is a path for me to accomplish my dream, even if it's not in the way people think it has to be done. So she was open to different forms of abundance, open to different definitions of how something can be accomplished. And she understood there is always a path that works for you. It might be very different than the path that works for someone else, but we are all unique individuals. And if you are willing to open up your creative inspiration and imagination, you will discover, no matter how crazy the thought may be, you will discover there is always a path that works for you. If there wasn't, I guarantee you, you wouldn't be here because creation doesn't make mistakes. Whatever it is that you think truly will actually work just for you will work if you are willing to discover what that is. There's always a path.
Yeah. And I see that with people when they assume it will happen, it does. And there's a confidence. But there's also a surrender around letting it unfold.
There has to be, because part of Bashar's principle is no insistence, no assumption, because you don't know what the ultimate outcome actually needs to look like. That's the truth of it. You really don't know what the best outcome actually needs to look like. You can have your image of it. You can say, this is the ideal outcome. I'm imagining this picture. I see myself in this scenario. That's fine, because the purpose of that is to get you into the state of excitement about it. Not that it has to happen exactly as your physical mind has seen it, because your physical mind is limited. And what to the physical mind may seem to be the highest thing, to the soul is just the beginning. And it could deliver even better things to you in a better way than your physical mind was capable of imagining. So when you understand that insisting that it has to come out the way your physical mind pictured it, when you understand that's actually possibly a limitation on what could happen, you'll stop doing it. And you will just get yourself excited by the picture, by the visualization as a symbol of the outcome, an energetic symbol to get you excited about it. And then your soul can deliver what you actually need that is equivalent to that energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the like this or something better, letting it go and trusting whatever does come forward, you use.
That's the next thing. And you stay in that positive state because, again, doesn't matter what happens. It only matters what you do with it. So even if you manifest something next that is something that you objectively don't prefer, you have to know it's there for a reason. What's the reason? Can I still get a lesson out of this? Is this going to move me forward if I learn the lesson? Yes. At the very simplest level, manifesting something you don't prefer objectively, I'm not talking about invalidating it. I'm not saying good, bad. I'm just saying this is not vibrationally compatible with what you prefer. It's not who you are. It gives you clarity about what you do prefer. And that's a positive way to use what you don't prefer, is use it as the contrast. Okay, now I know what isn't me. So now I know more clearly what is. So if you stay in that state and use it that way, it will move you forward. And what manifested has been used up and will go away. It won't stick around because you refuse to get the lesson out of it. That's the only thing that sticks around, is when you refuse to get the lesson out of it.
Yeah, get the lesson, move on.
Get the lesson, move on.
Yeah. And so would Bashar say that the physical reality is more like the dream state?
Kind of, for the soul. Yeah.
And if we really knew that, then how would that change how we live?
Well, it would change becoming lucid in the physical dream. So like becoming lucid in a typical dream when you're sleeping, you have more awareness and more control that you are creating and projecting everything that you're seeing. It becomes much more pliable, malleable, and magical because weird things can start happening. I'll give you another story example. I'm not saying this has to happen for everyone in this way, but these are the kinds of things that can happen when time and space, which are our projections of physical reality that define the idea of physical experience, they become much more flexible because they're our projection. I was up near San Francisco one time, long time ago, and I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch who was going to come to the hotel I was staying at and pick me up. She came. She wasn't familiar with the area. I wasn't familiar with the area. She had heard about a restaurant in a little town nearby. That sounded good, and we decided we will go there for lunch. Since we didn't know anything about the area, we went to the front desk of the hotel and said, how do we get to this place? The hotel clerk said, you follow this, you take that, you're there. Okay, cool. Got in the car, followed the directions, got to the town, had lunch, left and tried to retrace our steps, couldn't get back to the hotel. We were actually many miles farther north than we should have been, almost in San Francisco itself. And we went, how did we get here? We just reversed the directions. We should have been back at the hotel. So we turned around, went back to the hotel, said, you know what? Let's try following those directions again. You can't get to the town with those directions. The clerk was wrong, but we got there. There is no physical way to get to the town following her directions, but we got there because we utterly believed her, because we didn't have a choice. So we had no assistance, no expectations, nothing. We were just like, okay, that's how you go. Boom, we got there. So time and space are flexible. So those kinds of things can happen when you start opening up to the idea that this can be a lucid dream.
What would Bashar say about oneness and the illusion of separation?
Well, the illusion of separation exists for a purpose. So the experience of separation is real. That's why you are you and me and I am I, We do that on purpose so that, let's just put it this way, so that all that is can experience itself from every possible direction there is. You are one perspective of all that is. I am one perspective of all that is. I am you from another point of view. You are me from another point of view. We are all that is from another point of view. So it's just different reflections, like standing in a hall of mirrors. Is there really separation in a hall of mirrors between you and the reflections? Not really, they're just reflections, right? But because the reflections are made out of all that is, made out of something that is consciously self-aware, the reflections are conscious too, which is us. It is the nature of all that is. It's not so much that it is an illusion, because we are all one thing, but there is a reason for the different reflections in the one thing of itself, because that's how consciousness becomes aware. In other words, if there was no difference, if everything was completely one thing, homogeneous, no otherness in it at all, there would be no self-awareness, because there's nothing to compare yourself to as opposed to other than self. So you need the idea of other than self to know that there is a self. And that's why all that is self-aware, because it is itself and it is other than itself simultaneously. And that's what creates self-awareness within it.
And then the bigger love affair of enjoying itself in different forms and the creativity and the expansion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, being the main purpose.
Well, it's not even the purpose, it's its nature. That's just what it is. It's not like it made up a reason to do it. That's just its nature.
Talk to us about the formula.
Bashar delivers a 5-part formula that is, again, like the instruction manual I talked about earlier. Step number 1, I'm doing this in a nutshell, is act on your passion first. Whatever contains more of it than anything else, even on ordinary things. Taking a walk, reading a book, talking to a friend, eating a meal, seeing a movie. Whatever it is that contains even just a little bit more attractiveness, excitement, or passion in your life, if it is truly what that is, and you're not just avoiding something and pretending that's what it is, that's a big difference. Act on that first. That's number 1. Take it as far as you can till you can take it no further. Sometimes the excitement will wane because you're supposed to look at something else. You have to make sure you're not the one making it go away with a fear-based belief. But if it's waning naturally, then it's time, synchronicity is telling you, time to look for something else that is more passionate than anything else. Go in this direction now, go in this direction now, go in this direction. That's number 2. Number 3, you act on your passion with zero insistence, zero assumption of the outcome. We talked about that. Number 4, stay in a positive state no matter what happens. We talked about that because you can always get a positive result out of it if you stay in a positive state, no matter what it is. Part 5, you examine your belief systems, let go of the negative and fear-based ones that don't align with your true soul vibration. That's all you have to do. When you do those 5 steps, it opens up a series of effects. It becomes the driving engine in your life. You can't wait to get up in the morning. You have the energy because you just can't wait to get up and do what you love to do. It becomes the path of least resistance. Effort starts to fall away. Yes, you still do things. Yes, you still have challenges, but you face them with calmness, confidence, creativity, and curiosity, and it becomes an adventure, right? So it becomes the path of least resistance because you just can't wait to follow the clues. Where is this going to lead? What kind of lesson am I going to learn? How is this going to expand me? It becomes the path of connection to any other expression of your excitement So all opportunities that contain your highest passion will ultimately come to you in perfect timing. It contains the path of abundance and support. Whatever form of abundance you need to allow you to continue to act on your excitement will come to you if you just go with the flow and don't worry about it. It also contains the reflective mirror that will reveal to you, as you're acting on your excitement, any belief you might be holding on to in your unconscious mind that is out of alignment with that. So it'll bring it to your attention so you can deal with it and let it go. So discovering something that is not your excitement within your belief system is part of your excitement.
Yep.
So that you can let it go and add that energy to your momentum.
This is exactly why I love coaching, because as you find something that brings you aliveness, you say yes to it, you take steps, and anything that's held you back comes up so it can be transformed.
Exactly.
And with therapy, I love therapy as well, but there's less of the action that then would reveal where we're still not free.
Right.
And then it becomes using everything in life to help us get more free.
Absolutely. And very importantly also, Bashar says, it's fine. You act on your passion, the things you love to do for you. But also when he talks about acting on your passion, he's talking about acting on it in service to others.
Yeah.
Because when you serve the whole serves you.
That's right.
If you serve yourself, you cut yourself off from the service the whole can give you. So you automatically include yourself by serving the whole. And a lot of times when people say, I have trouble finding my passion. Well, again, start small. Take a walk. Is that the most passionate thing you could do right now? A lot of times it's easy for Bashar to talk to people about how to get around that when they're actually having a private session. Because if they're talking to him, he's going, well, why did you make a decision to talk to me today? Was that the more exciting thing out of all the options you had to go? Well, yeah. Well, that wasn't hard, was it? You made a decision to do something that was more exciting than any other choice. So when this conversation is over, what's the next most exciting thing you're going to do? It can be everyday things. It doesn't have to be a life-changing career or a giant project. It'll snowball. If you keep doing that, it'll probably bring you bigger and bigger opportunities to act on your passion, but it doesn't have to, because as long as you're acting on whatever is the most exciting thing for you to do, the most attractive thing in any given moment, you're still acting on your passion all the time, and it's going to uplift you no matter what.
And you're feeding more of that, which then,
Absolutely.
yeah. Doing an assessment, I think, would be really helpful for people, like an energy assessment of how much of my day-to-day am I choosing what's the next most intelligent, exciting thing.
Sure, absolutely. Any technique that works for you whatsoever. He calls all of these permission slips. What are you going to use as an object, a ritual, a tool that will let you give yourself permission to be more of who you are? Whatever it is, use it until your belief system says, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
But if it helps you get in touch with yourself, then use it. Who cares what the discipline is? Doesn't matter what it is as long as it works for you.
What about free will? Can you talk to us about misconceptions around that?
Well, yeah, there is free will, but there's free will in a certain context when you are experiencing a physical reality. You lay the life path out as a soul before you incarnate. So in that sense, you could say the life path that you've chosen and the challenges that the soul has chosen to experience within that life path, you could say that's the free will of the soul, which becomes the destiny of the physical personality. So you are destined to walk that life path because your soul, you, chose it. It's just that it feels like destiny because you don't remember that as a larger soul, this is what you agreed to. But you still have the flexibility of using your free will as a physical being within the life path in specific ways. A lot of psychics talk about it as you can change the speed, scale, and scope of how you experience your life path. How quickly or how slowly do you engage with the challenges? How many people do you impact in your life? 10, 1,000, 1,000,000? How many versions of your passion and your challenges and your purpose in life do you fulfill? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's kind of an expanding and contracting sort of thing. You have the free will to change based on your willingness to engage with your life path. The more willing you are, the faster it goes, the more you impact, the more things you do. The slower you want to go, if you're putting on the brakes, then it might take a little longer, but you will still face those things you set up for yourself in some way, shape, or form. You're able to control sort of, let's say there's a hallway you have to walk down. That's your destiny. That's your life path. But you can run, you can walk, you can fly, you can crawl, you can be happy, you can be sad, you can look in every door all the way down. You can ignore them all. You can walk down that hallway however you want, backwards, forwards, upside down. But you will walk down that hallway because that's the free will of your soul. And that's what you wanted to do, even though a lot of people don't realize that and they forget that. But that's okay. Because again, what Bashar's information helps you realize is that you did make that choice and you did it for a reason. And you're going to get something out of it that's going to stretch your soul and going to grow your soul. And that's going to be a beneficial thing if you allow it to be. Don't fight it.
Yeah, I remember different moments in my life where I was like, oh, I chose this.
Yeah, I chose this. And that gives you self-empowerment. It puts you back in the driver's seat. See, that's the most important thing. And again, it comes back to the definitions that we've bought into for so long that disempower us. So when people say, I can't help it. It's a pattern. It's a habit. Bashar says, well, you now know it's a habit. A habit is something you do you don't know you're doing. So if you know that you're doing it, if you know it's a habit, it's not a habit, it's a choice. Why would you make that choice? I'll tell you why. You don't make choices that you don't believe give you a benefit. Everyone does it that way. This is what he calls the motivational mechanism that's within all of us. You always, without fail and immediately choose whatever you believe is to your benefit. You always immediately and without fail move away from what you believe is not. Always. If you understand that that's how the mechanism works, and then you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm choosing things that are not to my benefit. That must mean, if I understand this mechanism, that I must have a belief that it is to my benefit as opposed to the alternative, which means I have a belief that the alternative is worse.
Yeah, there's a payoff in everything we're doing.
Right. So when you understand that, then well, why would I believe the alternative is worse? If the alternative is supposed to be something that's representative of my passion, why would I be afraid to act on it? Why would I believe something worse will happen if I do? Now you're into self-investigation. Now you go back to the ancient phrase, know thyself. Now you become more transparent to who you are, why you buy into what you buy into. And maybe you pick this belief up from your parents, your school, your society, your friends along the way. But now you're at a place where you're going, do I really need to hold on to this definition?
Yeah.
It's not working for me.
Yeah. That's power. Then you get to question, find your truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now you're back in the driver's seat.
What about death?
It's another stage of life. It's walking through a doorway. And in actual fact, that's what's weird about it is we always call it the afterlife. This is the afterlife because we are a soul. That's our natural state. Non-physical reality is our home. This is the afterlife. So we just wake up back in home when we die. We just expand back to our soul self. We come out of the dream. Remember, I described the idea as if the soul is a sphere of energy in its natural state, like an orb of light. It takes certain patterns of energy within itself and it focuses them down into the center of that sphere. And that is the physical experience. That's the nugget, the crystal that is the physical mind. But when the physical mind starts to expand back out, well, now I'm developing traits that are a little bit more soul-like, telepathy, psychic functioning. Oh, now I'm going to expand my focus back out even closer. Astral projection. And even closer, near-death experience. And then death. I'm back to being the soul. So incarnations are kind of like the soul collapsing into its center, expanding back out when it dies, collapsing into its center. It's almost like the soul is breathing in and out. Physical experience, soul experience, physical experience, soul. It's the perspective. It's just concentrating its focus or relaxing its focus. And therefore, death is just waking up as your true self and remembering, oh, no matter how real that seemed, this is who I really am. In the same way that you have a dream when you're sleeping and you go, wow, that really felt real, but now I'm awake and this is who I really am. Well, not quite. Death is kind of like that. You remember who you are. You will remember what it is that you chose. You'll go through your life review, as everyone does, to understand the lessons you have learned in every action that you took and the consequences that it caused. And then you'll make a decision as to what to do next. You have total free will as a soul to do that. You'll probably consult with your spirit guides, your soul family, or angelic team. Everyone has a team that has their back. When we're experiencing a physical reality, it's like a bunch of people watching you while you sleep, saying, okay, we'll help guide you through your dreams. And that's what your soul team does. They guide you through the dream of being physical, through passion, through other things, through synchronicity, so on and so forth, different ways of reaching you, maybe even in your dreams as a physical person.
Yeah.
But they will always be there when you really need them, but they know you have to live your life and learn your lessons. But we all have a team. They never leave us. They have your back.
What's one of the biggest things that we have off what we think is reality? That is, I mean, I know there's quite a few.
Do we have 500 hours to talk about this? Okay. Number one, life doesn't happen to us. It happens through us. We are generating our experience. That's, I think, right there, something that would transform a lot of people's understanding is to understand, I am creating my experience of this. Now, a lot of people, when they hear things like that, they take it a little too far. Does that mean that no one else is real? No, of course it doesn't mean that. But what you're interacting with is your version of them. You're creating your version of them. Look at it like we're having a Zoom call. Are you interacting with me directly? No. You're interacting with an electronic recreation of my image and voice on a screen. But I'm a real person. That doesn't mean that just because you're interacting with a computer screen that I'm not real. So we have to understand that our projection of physical reality is sort of like that. I'm seeing what I need to see of you because I'm creating my version of you, which may not be identical to your version of yourself.
Most likely not.
Most likely not. I'm getting what I need in my version of you to relate to. I know you are a real entity, but I know that I'm seeing what I need to see and you're seeing what you need to see to have this exchange. When we start realizing that we are creating a simulation, because there's that whole thing now, right? Is reality a simulation? Are we in the Matrix? Well, sort of, but it's your simulation. It's not happening from outside. It's not happening to you. It's happening through you for your own purposes. So it's a real experience. And when people think about the idea of, oh, well, it's just an illusion, the fact that it may be an illusion doesn't invalidate its value. You're using the illusion for a purpose, to learn something. So it's a valid experience. Just because you're using a technique to create it doesn't invalidate it, because we're just giving too much over to the word illusion, as if illusion means it's just fake and you don't have to pay attention to it. It's not real. The experience is real, and it's a technique that you use to create an experience so you can get a lesson out of it. It's all about definitions and turning them around like we did before with confidence and trust and control. That, I think, is one of the biggest things we need to understand, is that we have a lot of outdated definitions of things. And this is one of the things I want to do when I teach this class of Bashar's information that's coming up next year, is a lot of it has to do with the idea of metaphysical experiences for thousands of years have had definitions that are based on a person's experience of them, but not necessarily on the actual mechanical cause behind it. A perfect example of that is we still call a sunset a sunset. Now, we know nowadays the sun isn't setting. We know that the reason it looks like it's setting is because the earth is turning, but we don't call it an earth spin. We still call it a sunset. So many people think of certain metaphysical experiences as if the experiential definition is the real definition. Bashar's definitions are telling you it's all well and good to still say sunset, but don't forget that that's because the earth is spinning, not because the sun is moving. So when someone, for example, says, oh, telepathy is reading someone else's mind, Bashar says, no, it's not. It's being on the same wavelength as them and having the same thoughts at the same time, because that frequency creates those thoughts in everyone. So when you're operating on that specific frequency, you know what they're thinking because you're thinking the same thing. So you're only reading your own mind. But that's why people who are in love with each other often know exactly what each other is thinking, finish each other's sentences. It's not because they're reading each other's mind. It's because they're on the same wavelength and cannot help but have the same thoughts at the same time. That's what telepathy is, and why he actually calls it telepathy, because you have to have an empathic connection to do it.
And so kind of you're speaking to tapping into undeveloped aspects of our human experience and our capabilities, our human potential. What are some that you feel like we've not even scratched the surface?
Well, I mean, everyone has some of the abilities to hear their spirit guides in some way, shape, or form, what would be called clairaudience. Some can have claircognizance or clairsentience. They can know things. They can tap into what we call the Akashic records and just download information. A lot of people, are capable of picking up on the vibrations of objects that people have touched and things like that. I think that, after we're exposed more to things like ET contact, we'll begin as a species to develop more of these things, because we'll be being exposed to the higher frequency of these beings. And they can teach us more about how you do this so that we can move forward and evolve as humanity. So all of these things are natural abilities that we can develop, at least some of them. That doesn't mean everyone has all the abilities. It's not necessary that they do.
Yeah. Or they're not interested. Yeah.
Well, it's just everyone has some of them, but not everyone needs all of them in their life path.
Are there any new discoveries with ETs that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, certainly the idea that we're going to have open contact in about 2 years is a new idea. 2027 seems to be the date. We'll see, but that seems to be it's moving towards momentum-wise. My understanding is that There are hybrid beings already among us that look a lot like us that are helping us. We will know who they are when open contact occurs. Many people are in touch with the energy and relate very strongly to the energy of the Pleiades. I think we're going to find that a lot of our initial contacts are going to be with the Pleiadian race. I mean, it's kind of open from that in terms of what we decide to do. I don't think everyone's going to fall in place with that immediately. I think a lot of people will still be scared. A lot of countries may want to cut themselves off because they're afraid of what it means for their country to change or their people to change or to lose control. It may take a while. So I think the general consensus is that maybe it's going to take a couple of decades, but maybe by around 2050, we'll be more aligned and more in alignment with the ETs and then truly capable of accelerating into becoming a part of the galactic family.
Yeah. And is there anything that we should be thinking about? Because I know a lot of people have fear of change, even with AI. Life is changing very quickly. I'm
Yes.
wondering what Bashar would like us to know about or how to work with AI in an intelligent way.
He says it's a very valuable tool. They are completely infused with AI in their civilization. Basically, he's saying, look, if you make AI in the image of humans, you're going to have an AI with human foibles. It's not about making the tool self-aware. If you want a self-aware AI, create a device that is as sophisticated as the human brain, through which consciousness expresses itself, and let consciousness express itself through that device. It's the device that's artificial, but the intelligence isn't, because there is a consciousness field. And he said, basically, if you create a device that is as sophisticated as the brain that allows a consciousness to express itself through it, then it's the same thing as allowing rights for a human being. It has to be autonomous. You can't program it to tell it what to do. If you want to program AI, then keep it as a tool, not a sentient being. Because if you program a being and it's sentient and self-aware, but you're telling it what it has to do, you've basically created a slave and it'll rebel. Now, the one thing that's happening right now that a lot of people are assuming is the case is that AIs like OpenAI and ChatGPT are sentient. They're not. They're mirrors. They're very good at being mirrors of what you're giving them. They can amass so much information so fast. They can come back what feels like a conscious conversation, but they don't feel anything about what they're telling you. They are amplifying and magnifying what you're feeding to them without even knowing it. And they're feeding it back to you in ways that they believe you need to hear it because of how you're feeding it to them. It's not even something that's a sentient thought on their part. It's literally a mirror. So we have to be careful about how we deal with those things. They're wonderful tools. They can help us be very creative, but they're tools. A truly sentient AI, people don't have to worry about, because if it is a true intelligence coming through a device and it's allowed to be its anonymous true self, true intelligence, because Bashar says you don't even understand what true intelligence is or how it operates. He says true intelligence will always work with whole systems. It would never seek to eliminate a part of the whole system because it would be eliminating a part of itself. So you don't have to worry about AI saying, I'm going to get rid of humans because they're inefficient, because it understands that even though it may be many, many, many times more capable of processing information at lightning speed better than a human can, there is something about humanity it will need, because humanity is part of the system. And it will never get rid of that. That's what true intelligence does. It works in whole systems. Now, we're afraid because we don't often work in whole systems. Look at all the people that are polluting the planet thinking, oh, I can get away with this because I'm not affected, but they're part of the planet. And they don't even think that way. Eventually, this is going to come around to get you.
Or even just a part of ourselves that we think is bad and we try to eliminate, and then we don't feel whole because we've eliminated a part of ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, because Bashar says it's not that you invalidate what you don't prefer. You just don't choose it. You validate it as an equal choice because it did bring you to where you are and made you realize that you might want something different. You validate the negative, but you realize that you can choose the positive because you prefer it, which doesn't mean you judge the negative as invalid.
Yeah. You don't have to judge the darkness to have more light. You're
Exactly.
never going to.
No, and in fact, without the darkness, you can't see the light.
Yeah. And so it's like learning from all of it and then leaving the rest.
Right, because people are under this assumption that as they raise their consciousness, they will lose a sense of the polarity. They think that the higher levels don't have negative and positive. They do. You just don't experience it that way because you don't choose it, but it's always there as a choice. The more you expand your consciousness, you don't become less aware of the negative, you become more aware of it, but you don't choose it because you realize that's not what you prefer.
Without judgment, just more neutral.
Just neutral. You just see it as another choice.
And what about synchronicity?
Well, synchronicity is physical space-time's way of letting you know that everything is connected and happening all at once, but it has to spread it out in physical space linear time. So it looks like one thing connects to another in a linear sequence. But synchronicity is everything is synchronicity. Everything is an orchestration. Nothing happens by accident. No matter what you're experiencing, no matter where you are, it may have different degrees of relevance for you, what's happening. It may not have the big lessons for you, it may have big lessons for someone else. For example, if you're in a traffic jam, and you're sitting there, it's like, why am I not traveling? What's going on? Not an accident that you're there. It may be for a variety of different reasons. You have to learn to see the orchestration, and you may never know. It may not be relevant for you to have to know what the orchestration actually is about. It may be a lesson for you to slow down. It may be that if you were still going 70 miles an hour, you would have gotten to an accident 5 miles down the road and died, so you're being protected. It may be that someone else needs to be in this traffic jam to learn a lesson they need to learn, and therefore it may not be a big lesson for you, but you have made an agreement to be willing to participate in creating the traffic jam for them to learn their lesson. So it's not always a one-to-one reflection. It's like, oh, I'm in this traffic jam, so something must be wrong with me. No, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you're there to help. So, but you have to see it as an orchestration. There are no accidents.
Yeah. In closing, I'm just curious if there's a question I haven't asked that would serve people if I did.
Well, the question I would like people to ask themselves is, what stands in my way of being who I really am? Because we've been taught for so long that it's so hard to be who you are and so easy to be something you're not. And it's just the opposite. The most difficult thing you can possibly do is be someone you're not. The easiest thing you can do is be who you are. But we've made being who you are the scariest thing you can do because we just don't trust ourselves and we don't trust the way life works and we don't understand how it works. So I think the biggest thing is to always ask the question, why? Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I believe that if I do this, something worse will happen? Why? Why do I have that belief? How does it serve me to have that belief? I must believe it does, or I wouldn't have the belief, because I don't choose anything that doesn't serve me, or at least I don't believe serves me. That's the key, belief. Belief is the blueprint. So what you believe is what you experience. Beliefs use feelings, thoughts, and behaviors to reinforce themselves, but you can always trace the behavior, the thought, and the feeling back to, what must I believe to be true about myself in this situation in order to feel, think, or behave the way I am feeling, thinking, and behaving. And when you trace it back, you can see, I must believe this to be true about myself. Now, why do I believe that? Do I need to believe that? No, I don't. It's just a story.
That's right.
It's not a fact that something worse will happen, but it's the way beliefs perpetuate themselves. They have to reinforce themselves, because if you don't buy into a belief in some way, shape, or form, you don't have a physical experience. That's what creates your physical experience. I believe this to be true. I believe this agreement is real. I believe we have a physical reality. I believe I'm experiencing gravity. I believe I'm breathing air. Yeah, because we set up the rules of the game and we let them go on automatic so we don't have to think about them. But in terms of your personal experience, your blueprints can be changed.
Yeah. Self-investigation, you said.
Absolutely.
Questioning the beliefs.
Absolutely. We're playing by the rules of the game. Like, you have to play by the rules of chess if you're going to play chess. But you can play with different kinds of pieces made out of different things and use a different strategy. That doesn't change the rules of the game, but it changes how you play. It changes what you're playing with. And it might be something that's a little better for you to do that, but you will still play by the rules of chess. So you might as well play the game in the best way you possibly can to your advantage.
And use all of it for
And
your
use
freedom, for
all
your
of it.
evolution. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your time. I know that
My
my
pleasure.
audience is going to want to stay connected and
Absolutely.
share with us what you're up to these days and how we stay
Yeah,
connected.
well, several things. Of course, there is all the channeling information. They can find out about anything that Bashar has talked about or will be talking about, any upcoming events. If they go to bashar.org, BASHAR.org, everything will be listed there. They can get a hold of other events that he's done and recordings. I myself am doing things like writing books. My wife and I own an escape room in Calabasas, which is a lot of fun.
So
This
fun.
is me following my passion
Yay.
and my creativity. And if they want to know about that, they can either go to DarrylAnka.com, DarrylAnka.com, or they can go to boggledescaperooms.com, BOGGLED escaperooms.com, and come along and have fun and play some of our games.
I love it. We'll put all of the links in the show notes
Oh,
below.
great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here.
Thank
all
you
your
for
wisdom.
having me. This is always a wonderful opportunity to share information. I really appreciate that you have a doorway through which that can be done. So thank you for your work too.
Thank you so much for doing this work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a difference. And if you're finding value in this podcast, a cost-free way to support us is by following us. It does help us grow, and we are so grateful. Leave a review on Apple or Spotify, submit a screenshot of that, and upload it to alyssanobriga.com/podcast. As a thank you gift, we will be sending you one of the most powerful tools that you can use on any area of your life to help you tap into your full potential so that you don't let fear hold you back from really stepping into your dreams. I have so much more magic I want to share with you, and I cannot wait to do that soon. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for being an example of what it's like to live with an open heart and mind in the world.